friends. Welcome to Sky House Herbs podcast. I'm Ashley Elenbaas, a clinical herbalist, and in this space, I share my knowledge and experience with plant medicine to help you on your own journey of healing and transformation. Join me in exploring the ancient wisdom of plant spirit medicine and how it can be used to heal the body, mind, and spirit. We'll talk to experts in the field and share stories from people who've been transformed by powerful plant allies. New episodes are released each Monday, so please subscribe. And now, let's explore this mystical world of plant medicine together. Hey everybody, welcome in. Today we're going to be talking about the gut-brain axis. This is so important for us to understand as humans and human bodies, but also as herbalists, because the connection between the gut and the brain is so significant. If we ignore it, we're ignoring a huge potential for healing. Before we dive into today's topic, if you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, please just take a second, click the subscribe button, click the notifications button, click all notifications, and that way you can find me again. I want to bring our attention to something that has probably happened in your body before. Have you ever gotten really anxious or nervous, or maybe you're in a situation where your nerves are high and your stomach gets into a knot? Have you ever had that happen to you? Or have you ever noticed when you're on vacation and you start eating really bad junk food that your mood starts to drop? The gut-brain axis is a two-way communication by which the gut and our brain interact and communicate with one another. As herbalists, we've known about this connection, the idea that our gut informs our brain, and that the relationship between our digestion and our mental health is a close one. In today's episode, we are going to talk about that connection and what is scientifically the gut-brain axis. How does it work? We're going to talk about herbal allies that you can use to support healthy communication between the gut and the brain. And then we're going to take a look at the more metaphysical, spiritual lessons. Let's start how the gut and the brain are connected. They're connected through a major nerve called the vagus nerve. Think about the vagus nerve as the superhighway between the brain and the gut. The name vagus comes from the Latin word the wanderer or to wander. Basically, we can think about the vagus nerve that connects the brain and the gut as this wandering agent that carries information. The vagus nerve connects the brain stem to the heart, to the lungs, and to the digestive organs. It's interesting to note that 80 to 90% of the fibers in the vagus nerve bring information from the gut to the brain, not from the brain to the gut. If you think about it, our gut is actually communicating more with our brain and telling our brain what to do. This means that our digestion is talking to our mind more than our mind is commanding it. When the vagus nerve is toned and healthy, communication is seamless. We have this beautiful, think about it like a fountain of information rising up in ripples and sending our brain waves of communication. This allows for digestion, our heart rate, and our moods to be in a healthy and steady place. Sometimes when the vagus nerve is underactive, maybe from trauma or stress, we have less information going to the brain, and this can result in symptoms like brain fog or fatigue. It can also lead to symptoms like anxiety. And if we have a vagus nerve that is in an underactive state, then the brain is not getting the full story. It's not understanding and getting the information that it needs to make clear decisions and choices. Think about your vagus nerve kind of like the string of a guitar. And when it is in perfect tone, then it's sending information up in these slow pulsations. And this allows our digestion to move slowly and efficiently. It allows our heart rate to be able to adapt to stress responses. It allows it to go up and down. We can breathe deeply and we can breathe rhythmically. We can feel our emotions without becoming hijacked by them. However, when the tone of the vagal nerve is low or underactive, and I kind of think of it as like tense, it's sort of not fully open, it's like a closed channel, that's when things start to go bad. We often notice with an underactive vagus nerve, we can have shallow or rapid breathing, increased heart rate, decreased digestive functioning, and overall this sort of wired but tired feeling. It's interesting to note that the research shows that people with low vagal tone actually tend to have a higher heart rate. They also tend to have higher instances of anxiety and higher overall systemic inflammation, which can lead to other chronic diseases down the road. The other way that the gut influences and speaks to the brain is through neurotransmitters. These are chemical messengers that are sent from the gut up to the brain to tell the brain how to respond. Inside your digestive tract, we have over 100 million neurons, and that's more than it's in the spinal cord. We call this bundle of neurons the enteric nervous system. Think of it like a second brain in your gut. The enteric nervous system controls motility, the release of enzymes, intestinal blood flow, and it also makes decisions independent from the brain. So the brain is actually not involved with how the enteric nervous system makes its choices. Note too that 90 to 95% of the body's serotonin is produced in the gut, and that's our neurotransmitter that is our happiness hormone. Serotonin makes us feel calm, it's a mood elevator, and it also brings a sense of happiness and contentment. The connection to herbalism here, I think that is really interesting for both the vagus nerve and for the enteric nervous system, is that our nervines can affect the tone of the vagus nerve and can affect how the body signals neurotransmitters to go up to the brain. We can use herbal nervines and carminatives like fennel and coriander and chamomile to relax the gut nerves and smooth muscle. This reduces spasm and then relaxes anxiety, and at the same time sends signals up through the vagus nerve and through the different neurochemical pathways for the brain to relax. Our bitter herbs also start to wake up the enteric nervous system and activate more signaling pathways. We can think about bitters as literally lighting up the circuitry between the brain and the gut. The last part of the gut that I want to talk about before we go into the herbs directly is the microbiome. This is our inner ecosystem. These are all of the bacteria that are responsible for helping us to break down our foods, but also to absorb in nutrients. The gut microbiome is made out of trillions of bacteria, fungi, and other microbes living in our intestines. It acts kind of like a biochemical factory. These microbes produce neuroactive compounds like serotonin, dopamine, and short fatty chained acids like butyrate, and these reduce inflammation and strengthen the lining of the gut. Now, this is kind of creepy but weird, and I think really cool that our microbes actually send signals to the brain. So the microbes in our gut are literally talking to us. And they talk to us through the vagus nerve. They send electrical signals up the vagus nerve through immune system messengers like cytokines and inflammatory markers, and also metabolites that can cross the blood-brain barrier. There are so many things that affect the gut microbiome, including and really essentially the foods that we eat. What we eat determines the quality of our internal microbiome, and herbs as well. Herbs can help to strengthen our gut microbiome and feed the good bacteria. And I'll tell you a few examples of those in a minute. One interesting thing to note is that chronic stress can decrease the amount of diversity that you have in your gut microbiome, which is why using relaxing nervine herbs and adaptogenic herbs is so important, because by reducing that overall cortisone flush from stress, then we can help our gut microbiome stay intact. One thing to talk about here is the relationship between stress, inflammation. One important thing to talk about here is the relationship between stress, inflammation, and the leaky gut, because leaky gut syndrome, or you can think of it as a leaky gut loop, can have a very negative effect on our overall health. When we are under chronic stress, the brain releases cortisol and other hormones, and these slow our digestion down. They decrease the production of stomach acid, loosen the tight junctions in the intestinal wall, and as these junctions get looser, larger particles and larger things can get through, and even bacteria into the bloodstream, which is very dangerous. This creates a cycle of systemic inflammation that feeds back to the brain and tells our mood and influences our cognition, typically leading to stress, Cortisol, anxiety, and the chronic inflammation can also downregulate immune function. This is where herbs like adaptogens can come in and really provide a lot of support. Ashwagandha, holy basil are a few examples. And sometimes even our demulcents like marshmallow and licorice root can help break this loop by stopping inflammation, slowing down the production and the release of inappropriate amounts of cortisol, and then soothing and calming the lining of the gut so that we don't have that leakiness between the membranes. I love all of this because it really shows that science is backing up what clinical and traditional herbalists have known for centuries, is that the health of our gut and the health of our center affects the mind and affects cognition. And so we can heal the gut. And healing the gut, we can also clear and heal the mind. The last thing I'll say about the gut before we move on to the herbs is that we don't want our vagus nerve to be completely relaxed, and we don't want it to be really tight and rigid. What we're looking for with the vagus nerve and with these junctions in the gut is balance and harmony. We want the vagus nerve to be able to respond fluidly, and we want the gut lining to be able to open and close appropriately. And that is what these herbs can do. And as a result, this will have a positive effect on our mood and our cognition. I'm going to offer 3 herbs for each of these areas that you can consider for supporting your gut-brain axis. The first group of herbs are called adaptogens, and these are really good for stress and for communication. We can think about these as nervine adaptogens that help to regulate the way we respond to stress in our environment and internal stress as well. The first one, which I think is kind of my favorite, I'm a little biased because I grow it and I love it, and this is holy basil. This one is the Kapoor variety, but you can really use any variety of holy basil, which is in the mint family. You can use all the aerial parts, that's everything that grows above ground, the leaves, the stems, and the flowers. And you can brew that as a tea. You can take it as a tincture. And holy basil, I think about it as really opening up. It's a very warming herb. So think about it as warming and relaxing the gut and letting that energy of the information of the gut gently rise all the way up into the brain. In ancient India, in Ayurveda, they consider this herb to be a rasayana, which means that it's a very healing, balancing, and longevity promoting herb. We can think about it gently opening the heart while relaxing the stomach. The second herb is milky oats, and I have a milky oat tincture that my friend actually gave me a bunch of milky oats this summer, and they're still steeping. I'll have to press them soon. But milky oat tops, when they're in the milky stage, you can tincture them, or you can buy them in commerce where you can buy most high quality tinctures. And milky oat tops, when it's in that oaty, fruiting body stage, are so good on the nervous system. Think of it like a warm mother's milk, just coating and calming the nerves. And that works on the gut level as well as throughout the entire body. I think about it as this milky, mothering medicine for the vagus nerve, so that the vagus nerve can stay open and yet, hold its tone. So it can be a nice, easy flow of communication up and down. It's also really good for people who've been depleted, stressed out. It's my favorite one to use for people who have burned the candle at both ends and they're just totally exhausted. They have just reached the point of collapse. And maybe they don't show it, but they know it. They're like, I am done. Milky oat tops is a great medicine. And the last herb that would work well in this category of nervine adaptogens is ashwagandha. Ashwagandha has a ton of research on it. It's a really wonderful root grounding medicine. It can be helpful for insomnia. It can be helpful for anxiety and even depression. And we find that it really helps to lower cortisol and support stress resilience. All right, the next group of herbs are digestive and microbiome supporting plants. The first one is chamomile. Chamomile is, I think everyone needs to drink chamomile more. I think it was Rosemary Gladstar who said this. She said, every time I'm on the road and I see people having road rage, I just want to give them a cup of chamomile tea. She said, imagine what rush hour would be like if instead of coffee, everybody had a cup of chamomile tea. I was like, that's brilliant. Totally. So maybe in addition to your coffee, have some chamomile. And this is such a great herb. It increases productivity in the gut. It helps with digestion, and it relaxes the vagus nerve to allow like intelligence and wisdom to come from the enteric nervous system up into the brain. And when your gut feels like things are safe, your brain believes it. Chamomile is the quintessential mother who tells you, you are okay, you are safe. The next herb is lemon balm. This is another one of my favorites. I actually have this is my lemon balm tincture that I made this summer. It looks yellow, but it's not that yellow actually. Lemon balm is another great carminative and digestive supporting herbs that is a nervine. It is a mild antidepressant and it's a great antiviral. And I love how this herb also helps to open up and increase digestive flow. We can think about it as lifting any heaviness from the solar plexus. It's a very lightening herb. So if we want to give the brain soft waves of green, lemon balm tea is a great way to do this. And the last group of herbs that work really specifically on the digestive microbiome support level is going to be your bitters. And there's so many bitters out there that work great. There's a science behind finding the right bitter for you and an art. But just to give you an idea, dandelion root is a great bitter, gentian root is a great bitter, or even buy a pre-made bitters blend. Bitters help to stimulate vagal tone. They help to signal digestion and help the body release enzymes and digestive juices into the stomach, and bitters have been shown to improve serotonin signaling. And we can think about how classically in most cultures, bitters are taken before a meal, whether it's bitter greens like arugula and salads, but bitters were often taken before meals to help to stimulate the digestive juices and functioning. And that is part of how we create this balance and harmony in the gut-brain axis. And then the last group of herbs, I'll share 3 of them. These are going to be specific for building your microbiome in your gut. Think of these as food for your healthy gut bacteria. The first one is marshmallow root. I love this plant. It is so nourishing and calming and soothing and anti-inflammatory. I like to make it as a cold infusion tea. Take maybe about 2 or 3 tablespoons of marshmallow root, add it to a pint jar, fill it with room temperature water, let that sit 6 to 8 hours, and then strain it through a sieve or cheesecloth and drink it. It is very thick and mucilaginous, and that mucilage will coat the entire gut. Oh my gosh, it is so soothing and good for healing any sort of gut inflammation. And at the same time, the inulin and fibers will help to feed the healthy gut flora. Another great prebiotic for the gut is dandelion root. It is also a bitter, so we're kind of feeding 2 birds with one hand. Brew dandelion as a decoction, take the dried root, cook it in maybe 1 to 2 cups, I would say like a teaspoon of dried dandelion root, cook it on the stove with some water, 15 minutes, low simmer, strain it. I kind of think of it as like a coffee alternative. You can even add a little milk to it or add some chai spices. And that's a great way of bringing more inulin, that soluble fiber, down to the gut microbiome to help feed it. And the last one, if you are not on high blood pressure medication, if you are not pregnant or nursing, you don't currently have high blood pressure, then you can take licorice. But if you have any of those, you want to avoid licorice because it will elevate blood pressure and it is not considered to be safe in pregnancy and breastfeeding. But what I love about licorice is that it is very demulcent, very healing, very strongly anti-inflammatory. It really brings down prostaglandin levels. I kind of think of it as our herbal corticosteroid in some ways. At the same time, it also has soluble fibers that can feed and support a healthy microbiome. My suggestion to you is maybe consider trying a few of these herbs, but do combine it with lifestyle and ritual. Herbal medicine always works better when we're combining it with a mindful, healthy diet. This includes eating a lot of green and colorful foods, eating lean proteins, high quality fats, managing our stress, and also making sure we're getting adequate sleep. A few ideas and ways you can start to integrate ritual and these lifestyle practices into your daily life would be creating a pre-meal ritual, maybe taking a bottle of bitters, taking 3 to 4 drops on your tongue, sitting quietly, saying a little prayer, and then giving yourself a moment to get ready to receive your meal. This is an excellent way of priming your digestive system and at the same time taking cortisol levels down, which can affect the way you digest and process. Another idea would be to take work pauses with a cup of herbal tea. So midday at work, maybe a few times during your workday, stop, make yourself a cup of chamomile tea or lemon balm tea and sit and be and let your nervous system and let everything calm and ground back down into an happy and even state. In my clinical practice, I had a client once, we'll call her Cammie. She was a college student and she was just had such high anxiety. She had difficulty sleeping. I mean, really like all of her markers in terms of excitation and too much heat and fire in her system were off the charts. She also had a lot of digestive issues. She had reflux and she also had gut inflammation. Rather than focusing on the anxiety, I went right to her gut. I started her with a tea of demulcents that included marshmallow root, some milky oats, licorice, lemon balm, chamomile, and we got her gut under control. Her reflux went down. We also changed a few things in her diet, but we used this tea and a bitters tincture blend to get her gut in balance. And wouldn't you know, once her digestive system started coming back into a state of regulation, her anxiety went down and her sleep improved. I want to say one thing about the gut is that this is our seat of intuition. And when we have a gut hunch about something or someone or a situation, it's so important that we listen to it. Don't ignore your gut. If you want an idea for a meditation, maybe sit with yourself for a little bit and imagine your gut as this lush garden and wander through the garden and just see who's there and imagine that it has this great diversity and that everything has what it needs. And think about what this ecosystem needs in order to thrive and then give yourself that. And maybe even think about, are there any plants that are getting a little unruly? What needs to be pruned and what needs to be nourished? In closing, just to reiterate some of my top points, the gut-brain axis is really at the center of our emotional and digestive health. Science has confirmed what traditional medicine has known for centuries is that the stomach is really the seat of our health. We know that herbs can support our digestion holistically, supporting our mood and our mind. We should consider using herbal medicines if we are having dysregulation in our digestive functioning or in our mood. Healing happens when we listen to the inner garden. So pay attention to the signals that you're getting from your gut, how your digestion is moving. If something doesn't feel quite right, either seek support or get really curious and try different things. Try changing your diet, try increasing your exercise, and add things in that are going to feed and nourish that garden space. I'd love to also hear your ideas. What do you do daily to support your own gut health? Have you noticed any changes when you've changed your diet or improved your digestion and how that's affected your mind and your mood? And what herbs do you use? Do you have any plants that I didn't mention today that you really lean on when you're having digestive issues? All right, that's all we have for today. I hope you enjoyed today's content. Please like this video if you found it helpful. Please subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. And I look forward to seeing you all in the next episode.